Hello there. Welcome to Just the Dis. We talk about Blu-rays here. Apologies for that. Dog got a little bit excited. Got a scratch. So now I look like a Hanson brother from Slapshot or something. Anyway, so we're talking about Kino Lorber today, and they are on a run of great stuff. From 4K releases to straight Blu-rays, varying in time period and in type of content, which is fascinating as well. We've got a TV miniseries in here. Now, I haven't been able to check all of these out, but most of them I at least was able to throw in the player and have a look, see how they look, and they all look real solid to me. But let's see, where to start? A lot of good stuff here. Okay, let's start. Being it's October, let's start with the horror stuff. So we'll start with Burn Witch Burn, a.k.a. Night of the Eagle, I think. And this is a wonderful British black and white witch movie from 1962, and it's actually a favorite of both my pod partner Elric Kane and I's, and we are just big fans of it. It's just really well done. This is a brand new HD master by Studio Canal from a 4K scan of the original camera negative. Now, I thought this was just a straight reissue because this had come out from Scorpion before, and so I was just figuring we were getting a flat out reissue, but it looks like this is actually going to be a new scan, and so that's super cool because this movie is great. It's truly one of my favorite horror movies from the 60s, and it's got a Twilight Zone energy to it. So let's just see how they this hair curling horror masterpiece is ablaze with vile voodoo and malicious magic, smoldering with action, suspense, and ghoulish fright. Burn Witch Burn, also known as Under the Eagle, throws Janet Blair and Peter Wingard into a supernatural world of madness and dreams when ancient rites produce terrifying wrongs. A successful college professor, that's Wingard, raises hell when his pretty wife Blair turns out to be a powerful witch who claims that all of his achievements are just a little something she cooked up. But when the skeptical teacher forces her to give up all her spooky spells, a rival witch soon steps in to set a match to his happiness. Now he can only watch in terror as his career, his home, and even his wife threatened to go up in smoke as he barrels towards one of the most chilling final showdowns in horror history. Turn down the lights and curl up tight and watch this all-time fright classic from legendary Twilight Zone writers Charles Beaumont and Richard Matheson. Now that certainly has something to do why it has that Twilight Zone energy. You've got two of the greatest Twilight Zone writers out there talking about it. So that's super cool. And this special edition includes both the US and UK versions of the film. It also has an audio commentary by novelist and critic Tim Lucas and an audio commentary by screenwriter Richard Matheson. So that's obviously an older pour it over, plus an interview with actor Peter Wingard. So really, really cool stuff, and definitely neat to see sort of how the witchery starts to kick up. You know, I put this in a class with like Curse of the Demon, aka Night of the Demon, you know, in terms of the witchiness of it, you know, the sort of casting of spells, and you know, it has a similar kind of vibe to that. In fact, I'd love to see them as a double bill. I really think they would do wonderfully as a double bill. So this is a big favorite. So nice to see it with a new scan, which looks great, and really big recommend for that one. Now this is a little different, but a lot of fun, and this is part of the Kino cult line. This is number 16. It is Zoltan, Hound of Dracula, directed by Albert Band. father of Charlie Band. And I'm a big fan of this one. I think it was Rebecca McKendry, Elric's partner on Colors in the Dark, that had picked this for one of our Animal Attacks episodes, and she made me aware of it. I think I'd heard of it, but I kind of was like, oh, I got to check this out. So it stars Michael Pataki, Reggie Nalder from Salem's Lot, and a few other things. You'll definitely recognize him. He's not on the back, unfortunately, but he just looks like a vampire. Like, looks like a real life living vampire. Just very gaunt and just feels vampire-y to me. Jose Ferrer also stars in this as sort of a doctor or a detective? I can't remember. There's more to the legend than meets the throat. When the Russian army unearths the vault of Dracula, they accidentally unleash his undead human slave. That's Reggie Nalder from Mark of the Devil. That's one of the things he's been in. And the Count's vampire hellhound, Zoltan. I love the dog in this. He is a Doberman Pinscher, and they've trained him to do some very interesting things, like, you know, pulling out stakes and flipping over coffin lids. And dogs actually play a decent part in this movie, and that's another reason I love it. I'm a huge dog person, despite the wound here. Let's see here. But these friends need a new master and head for Los Angeles to find Dracula's last living descendant, family man Michael Drake. That's Michael Pataki, who was also in Grave of the Vampire, with the help of an international vampire hunter. Inspector Bronco. That's Jose Ferrer. Can Drake destroy Zoltan and his pack of blood-crazed devil dogs before man's best friend fetches the final soul of the damned, also known as Dracula's dog? This is ferociously fun horror film, was directed by Albert Band, who also did I Bury the Living and Ghoulies 2. I Bury the Living is great, by the way, if you haven't seen that. A real wonderful classic with another Twilight Zone vibe. And features makeup effects by the legendary Stan Winston, which is super cool. Also has a commentary by film historians Lee Gambin and John Harrison. R.I.P. Lee Gambin. Not surprised he is a fan of this. He's a big Animal Attacks guy and even wrote a book about it. But yeah, super fun. And this is, I don't know, it's a Studio Canal scan. It looks really good to me. I don't see if it's a new scan, but I was certainly pleased with how it looked. But just a lot of fun. There's, like I said, so Michael Pataki's character does he have 2 German Shepherds, which I have a German Shepherd mix myself. And he, they sort of, dogs can be vampired, if you will. They can be brought into this. So the dog starts creating its own dog army that's mentioned there. And I'm not going to mention whether or not those dogs get involved, but it is an interesting twist on it. But yeah, just a silly, fun horror movie that I love to watch around this time of year. And super excited that it's getting a 4K Ultra HD debut, I think, in this Kino Lorber Kino Cult disc. So that's exciting. One more horror here, and that is Link. Also a 4K, also looks really nice. And this one doesn't mention the scan either, but it's also Studio Canal, and I think it looks great. I think this has been on Blu-ray before, as far as I remember. Yes. This is a 4K upgrade, and it looks nice. This is directed by Richard Franklin, Australian director I'm a big fan of, who did things like, Psycho 2 and Cloak and Dagger and Road Games is just fantastic. If you haven't seen that, one of the best of the Hitchcock acolytes. He's sometimes mentioned in the same breath with somebody like Brian De Palma because he was a Hitchcock fan, and I want to say he even brought Hitchcock over to Australia to teach some classes, towards the end of his life. So just a real admirer of Hitchcock, and, really takes a lot from him in terms of his ability and his care with building suspense. And this is just a great suspenseful story of I think it's set in Australia. An Experiment in Terror, Elizabeth Shue, The Karate Kid, and Terrence Stamp co-star in the suspenseful horror film directed by Richard Franklin. Oh, he did FX2 as well, which is good. And featuring a chilling score by legendary composer Jerry Goldsmith, who also did The Omen. Young graduate student Jane Chase, that's Shue, becomes the new assistant to an eccentric zoology professor, Stamp, at the remote home he shares with two brilliant chimpanzees and an elderly orangutan butler named Link. But yeah, I don't want to read the rest of this. Don't read the back. Don't watch a trailer. Things start happening with the chimps and the orangutan, and it becomes a question of like, what's going on here? You know, somebody's missing, and where did they go? What happened to them? And it's a lot of show don't tell, because there's a lot of scenes with the chimps and orangutan, which could not have been easy, and I'm sure were not easy to film. It becomes that much more Hitchcockian in that he's just letting scenes play out, giving you little breadcrumbs here and there. And I just love the way this builds. It really builds well, and it's a very enjoyable horror thriller. And it is scary when you think about the strength of even a young chimp, could pull an arm out of a socket, whereas like an orangutan is even stronger than that. So like it's like really heavy duty stuff, and you do feel for the Elizabeth Shue character that there's a danger, about as friendly as they are to her. You're also like, could this turn at some point, and where's it gonna go? So anyway, very enjoyable and a little underrated, I think, at this point. I feel like people know Cloak and Dagger and Psycho 2 better than they know Link and Road Games, and Richard Franklin's just a real fantastic director, and I love him. So this includes an audio commentary, again, with Lee Gambin, and this time with film critic Jarrett Gahan. Deleted work print scenes, which are fascinating. I watched those. Audio interview with Richard Franklin, which is cool. And Jerry Goldsmith demo with a Link theme as well. But both these, this and Zoltan, include a Blu-ray and a 4K, which is nice. Yeah, two fun animal attack, animal mayhem kind of movies. Really enjoyed the ending of Link this time. For some reason, it didn't fully land with me the last couple times I'd seen it. This is probably like the third or fourth time I've seen it, and there's a bit at the end that really resonates, and it's a very clever out, if you will. So that's good stuff. Then we have just a lot of not a lot of thrillers. We have a couple thrillers. We have some comedies. Let's do the thrillers next. Do these in order here. Okay, so let's start with the 4K. We'll start with Sudden Death. This, of course, stars the great Jean-Claude Van Damme, and it is his Die Hard. It is a Die Hard type movie, very much in a sports arena during a Penguins game, Pittsburgh Penguins, I think, or what is it that they're. Brand new HDR Dolby Vision Master from a 4K scan of the original 35 camera negative. Action superstar Jean-Claude Van Damme teams with Powers Booth, who's a great villain in this, and he's always wonderful. An attention-packed suspense thriller from Peter Hyams, director of Running Scared, Narrow Margin, and Time Cop. He also did Busting, which is one of my favorite Kino Blu-rays. That's his first film, and it's fantastic buddy cop movie. Anyway, inside the Civic Arena, 17,000 rabid hockey fans gather for the Stanley Cup final game, including the Vice President of the United States. What they don't know is that someone is planning to have the building and its inhabitants blown to bits. Van Damme portrays Darren McCord, a father who brings his two children to watch the Pittsburgh Penguins versus the Chicago Blackhawks, but when his daughter is suddenly taken hostage by terrorists, the special night turns into a deadly race against time. Her sinister captor, Booth, is demanding delivery of $1 billion from the U.S. Treasury by game's end. With thousands of lives at stake, the legendary muscles from Brussels frantically sets a plan in motion to rescue his daughter and abort the impending explosion before the final buzzer. So yeah, there's a great suspense clock on this one because each period, Powers Booth is asking for certain monies that have been frozen for criminal activities or what have you to be transferred to some other anonymous offshore bank accounts. And so he's got his tech guy, very much like you have in Die Hard, who is watching the bank accounts and waiting for the stuff to transfer. And if it doesn't happen, he's going to start shooting people, and it really ramps up well, and it's a lot of fun. I'm a huge Hyams fan. He also did Outland, just the Relic. He's a very enjoyable filmmaker, especially in the genre space, but just anytime I'm a fan. So it's well made, and the 4K looks nice. As I said, it's a new HDR Dolby Vision Master from a 4K scan of the 35 camera negative. Audio commentary by action film historians Mike Leader and UK cult movie director Ross Boyesk, and vintage interview clips with Jean-Claude Van Damme, Peter Hyams, Powers Booth, and Ross Malinger, behind-the-scenes footage, trailers, and TV spots. Also a Blu-ray and 4K situation. I believe some of the extras are only on the Blu-ray, as is often the case. So this is from 1995. Zoltan's from 77. I didn't mention the years. Link is from 86. And I did mention Burn, which Burn is from 62. Next up, we have another one from the 80s. We have Rolling Vengeance. This is kind of a thriller, but more of a good old-fashioned revenge movie. The twist on it is that the implement of revenge is a homemade, gigantic monster truck with a big drill on it and with, like, flames that shoot out. And anyway, so it's a fairly standard, revenge setup in terms of we have, who's the, Don Michael Paul plays the son of a truck driver. He's a truck driver himself, and he's Joey Russo Jr., I think. And his family, he has a mother and younger sister and a girlfriend and his dad. They all end up sort of being menaced or threatened or injured or worse by the local jerk family led wonderfully by Ned Beatty. He plays Tiny Doyle. And he's got a bunch of other dudes, younger sons. He runs it's a bar / used car lot. And he sort of got the town in his pocket. It's a small town, but he brings a lot of money in and he's got a lot of pull. And he's great as the villain. This is like well before he would obviously do this in Toy Story 3. He's played villains before. I always find it a little alarming when he does because I think he's an incredibly enjoyable actor and has played a lot of very sympathetic characters and sometimes even dopey characters. But he's very good in this. And some would say the build maybe takes a little too long, a little too much carnage before the monster truck is employed. But I think the build is just about right. Maybe could ramp up a little quicker, but ultimately a lot of fun once the truck gets pulled out of the barn. It's basically being built in a barn by Don Michael Paul's character, and he brings it out and starts tearing stuff up, and it's pretty effective. And this was out of print. This is a reissue, but it was out of print for a long time, and now it's got an O card. No new stuff. I think the audio commentary by Paul Korup of Canucksploitation.com and film historian Jason Pachonsky, I think that was included before, as I think was the interview with actor Lawrence Dane, who's also the director of Heavenly Bodies, if I'm not mistaken, which is coming soon from Fun City Editions. Anyway, very enjoyable from 1987, revenge movie. This is this is definitely a thriller. So we have Murder on the Orient Express. This is the epic adaptation of the whodunit by Agatha Christie. It's been adapted, I feel like, a few times, but this is one of the definitive, obviously more recently with Johnny Depp et al. By Kenneth Branagh. But this is one of the more definitive versions, I think, and a great version from the wonderful Sidney Lumet. But this cast is insane. Look at that. And you can see all their faces here, too, which is great. I love this cover. Albert Finney, Lauren Bacall, Martin Balsam, Ingrid Bergman, Jacqueline Bisset, Jean-Pierre Cassel, Sean Connery, John Gielgud, Wendy Hiller, Anthony Perkins, Vanessa Redgrave, Rachel Roberts, Richard Widmark, Michael York, to name a few. Brand new HDR Dolby Vision Master from 4K scan of the 35 camera negative, and this looks really nice. Elegant escapist entertainment at its stylish European best. This Agatha Christie whodunit boasts an incredible international cast of some of the most wonderfully eccentric characters ever created. Albert Finney is the dapper detective Hercule Poirot, for whom murder solving is a precise intellectual exercise. Poirot agrees to interview all aboard the famous train's Calais coach, hoping to find the killer of an American millionaire before the local police arrive. And then among the suspects, that whole cast I went through there. Directed by the great Sidney Lumet, packed with sparkling dialogue and visually rich in texture, this incomparable thriller received 6 Academy Award nominations, with Ingrid Bergman winning Best Actress in a Supporting Role, 74, for her portrayal of a slightly dim-witted, Bible-quoting Swedish missionary. I was just looking to see if it mentions the who did the adaptation. Paul Den. Don't know him off the top of my head, but 128 minutes, and like I said, a very nice 4K scan. Audio commentary by film historians Howard S. Berger and Steve Mitchell and Nathaniel Thompson. The making of the murder on the Orient Express, and an interview with producer Richard Goodwin, as well as Agatha Christie, A Portrait featurette. And again, we have both Blu-ray and 4K included with this, but a nice Dolby Vision HDR scan for this one. Very cool stuff. Very exciting. I love the amount of Sidney Lumet we have on Blu-ray and 4K for that matter. It's kind of shocking and kind of amazing. Okay, let's do this. This is an interesting one. I didn't get a chance to check this out yet, but I'm very intrigued by this. Fatal Vision. Now, this is from 1984. Brand new HD master for 4K scan of the original camera negative. This is an miniseries. I want to say it's like a 3-episode thing. It's 186 minutes. Let's see here. The crime stuns the public. The pregnant wife and 2 younger daughters of Captain Jeffrey MacDonald, MD, have just been brutally murdered. Could a dedicated doctor and a brilliant militarist murder his own family in cold blood? Based on Joe McGinnis's bestseller, boasting top-notch performances by Carl Malden, Eva Marie Saint, Barry Newman. You know much I love him. And they mentioned The Lawyer on the back here. Definitely check out The Lawyer if you haven't seen that. That's great. Gary Cole and Andy Griffith. Fatal Vision brings to life this extraordinary true crime drama and powerful, compelling miniseries event. After the longest hearing in military history, charges against the respected MacDonald, that's Gary Cole, are dropped due to inconclusive evidence. Convinced of his guilt, however, his determined in-laws, Malden and Eva Marie Saint, fight for nearly 10 years to reopen the case. A suspenseful trial culminates in a gripping conclusion in the highly acclaimed Fatal Vision, one of the most publicized and thought-provoking cases in modern history. Nominated for 5 Primetime Emmy Awards, including Outstanding Drama Comedy Special 84 and winner of Outstanding Supporting Actor 84 for Malden. So this one's really cool. Like, we always talk, Kino's doing that lovely shelf space show every 2-3 weeks, and a lot of questions about that, and I've seen a lot of TV movie questions come up, and Frank has answered those pretty straightforward. They're a tough sell, and so I respect that something like this miniseries does still get a release, and I was totally unaware of it. Somehow I was alive in 1984, but I don't remember this multi-part event, and this cast and this story just sounds right up my alley. So I can't wait to check this out, especially in a new HD master. Okay, a few more things here. We have, this is lovely, last year at Marienbad in 4K and Blu-ray. This, of course, one of the great art house classic films of like all time. A favorite of, again, my pod partner Elric Kane, but one that I enjoy as well. Fascinating film. So this is from 1961. Winner of the Golden Lion at the 1961 Venice Film Festival last year at Marienbad, is a hypnotically beautiful puzzle box of a film. That's a good way to put it. Puzzle box. actually like puzzle box movies in general, and one of the most influential in history. Alain René's sensuous tracking shots and Delphine Seyrig's iconic Chanel gowns have become part of the cinematic lexicon and can now be seen in gorgeous 4K restoration from Studio Canal. In a large international hotel in the European resort town of Marienbad, with a sumptuous but austere decor, a marble universe with gold paneling, statues, and stiff servants, the rich anonymous clientele circulates. A man, Giorgio Albertazzi, is convinced he met an enigmatic woman, Seyrig, who was from John Dielman, if you don't remember, the previous year at the same location and perhaps had a flirtation. A second man, Sasha Pitoff, possibly the woman's lover or husband, repeatedly intimidates the first man. Their relations unfold through flashback shards that never quite fit into place, their lives in a hall of mirrors that never reflect a true self. So a very, like I said, artfully done, complex, and not straightforward in terms of the story. Like, you're never spoon-fed anything as far as this one goes. And that's one of the things I love about it and why I've come back to it a couple times. So this has a 4K disc and a Blu-ray disc, an audio commentary by film historian Tim Lucas, which is great. That's just on the 4K, and it looks great. This black and white 4K looks wonderful, this restoration from Studio Canal. Interview with, this is on the Blu-ray, disc 2. Interview with filmmaker Volker Schlondorf, last year at Marienbad, A to Z, a visual essay by film historian James Quant, and memories of last year at Marienbad, as well as Toute la Mémoire du Monde, a 1957 short film by Alain René. And René, one of the sort of great New Wave filmmakers, French New Wave filmmakers that doesn't get talked about as much, but I think he's really important and made some really great films. So this is in French with English subtitles, obviously, but really excited that Kino put this out. Actually, I forgot to mention, I noticed Fatal Vision actually has a commentary by film historian, filmmaker Daniel Kramer, too. But yeah, really excited about this. This is going to be a big one. This, could be a Criterion release, but they're not going to top this. This is a really nice release of that one. Okay, a few more things here. This is really neat. First Love. Now, this is from 1977. It stars William Catt, Susan Day, John Hurd. It's got, Beverly D'Angelo, Robert Loggia, and Swoosie Kurtz. 2021 HD master by Paramount from a 4K scan of the original 35 negative. Looks great. 35 camera negative. A really sweet coming-of-age love story set in college on the East Coast. I can't remember if they named the school, and I'll read the back in a second. But it's about William Catt, who plays a soccer player at this college, and his buddy, played by John Hurd, who I just adore, from Cutter's Way and Chilly Scenes of Winter, and a few other things that he really shines in. And this is definitely a good example for him. It's a smaller part, and he plays sort of the womanizing friend, that lives next door. And he's very charming, so you can kind of see how he would be appealing to the ladies. And so this is a thing where William Catt has, in his own admission, never really been in love. And he meets Susan Day's character. She also goes to the college. He sees her one night when he's bussing, because he works at the cafeteria. And he sees her one night when he's bussing some tables or something. No, actually, he sees her. That's the second time. The first time, he sees her at a restaurant, a really nice Italian restaurant. She comes in with Robert Loggia, and I won't talk about what that's about. You'll have to watch the movie to figure that out. But then he eventually sees her at the cafeteria, embarrasses himself, but they start to form a relationship, and it is complicated because of some entanglements she has, and it becomes a difficult situation ultimately, but it's really well acted and well done by director Joan Darling. And music by John Barry, based on the story Sentimental Education by Harold Brookie. Screenplay by Jane Stanton Hitchcock and David Freeman. And I had seen this, but it had been a while. It had been probably more than 10 years. And I must have seen it on YouTube, or maybe, I don't think it was on DVD. Maybe it was on DVD. But as far as I know, this is the Blu-ray debut, and it looks great. And I enjoy William Katt a lot in this period. He was doing things like Big Wednesday, and just an actor that I enjoy. Carrie. And Susan Day obviously would go on to like L.A. Law and stuff like that. But she's in the Partridge Family. I think she was coming off of. But she's really good in this, and they're good together, as is John Hurd, as is Beverly D'Angelo. Really interesting, thoughtful turn from Beverly D'Angelo. Not that she doesn't do that all the time, but I really enjoyed her character here too. So a great little ensemble and a wonderful movie. This has an audio commentary by William Katt, which is moderated by film critic, author Lee Gambin, yet again. So prolific. Even in his passing, we're seeing all these commentaries that he did prior to his passing, and he always does a wonderful job. So anyway, I really enjoyed rewatching this. I do recommend it. First Love. Okay, just a couple more here. This is another one that's been a minute since I've seen, but I know Elric had watched it recently and was a big fan. This is White Dawn, or The White Dawn. And this is from 1974, directed by Philip Kaufman, who did The Right Stuff, and the Invasion of the Body Snatchers remake, and The Wanderers. This is also a brand new HD master from 4K scan of the 35 camera negative, starring Warren Oates, Timothy Bottoms, and Lou Gossett Jr. And it tells the true tale of three sailors in 1896 who were separated from their ship during a hunt for polar bear and walrus. Eskimos who live on Baffin Island just south of the North Pole save their lives, but one angry sailor brings fear and violence to all. This astonishing Arctic adventure was helmed by Philip Kaufman, the acclaimed director of Invasion of the Body Snatchers, The Wanderers, The Right Stuff, with magnificent location footage by cinematographer Michael Chapman, who also shot Raging Bull. Did he shoot Taxi Driver? I think he did. Great cinematographer, and a lush score composed by Henry Mancini, which is really cool. This has an audio commentary by Philip Kaufman and an introduction by him, as well as a welcoming the dawn featurette, and a way of life, the world of the Inuit featurette. Some of this stuff I think came over from the DVD from Paramount. But like I said, this is a brand new master from 4K scan, and it looks really good. But like a very much lesser seen, lesser talked about 70s film with a great trio: Warren Oates, Timothy Bottoms, Lou Gossett. I'm a big fan of all three. And this is just a fascinating story from a great director. So nice that this gets, I think this is the first Blu-ray for this, at least in the States, and it looks wonderful. So very cool stuff. And then lastly, definitely not least, we have another 4K, and this is The Ladykillers, which would later be remade by the Coen brothers. And I think it's somewhat loose in some ways, but I actually like the remake, but obviously this is really a gem, starring Alec Guinness, Cecil Parker, Herbert Lom, Peter Sellers, Danny Green, also Jack Warner, Frankie Howard, Katie Johnson. Directed by Alexander McKendrick, and a really nice looking 4K, also with a Blu-ray. Color film, 2020 HDR Dolby Vision master by Studio Canal from a 4K scan of the original camera negative. In this gangster comedy to end all gangster comedies, the inimitable Alec Guinness, who was also in Kind Hearts and Coronets and the Lavender Hill Mob, also part of this group of films from the UK, is Professor Marcus, and ostensibly a musician and an academic who rents a London flat from a sweet old lady, BAFTA-winning Katie Johnson. He tells her that from time to time, several other musicians will visit in order to rehearse. In truth, the professor can't play a note, nor can his visitors. He's a criminal mastermind holding court over his gang of thieves, including the likes of the punkish Harry, the first major film role for Peter Sellers, apparently. This is from 1955. The homicidal Lewis, that's Herbert Lom from A Shot in the Dark, so you get a sort of a Pink Panther pre-union, if you will. Veteran criminal Claude, that's Cecil Parker, who was also in The Man in the White Suit. A Punch Drunk One Round, that's Danny Green. The gang used Professor Marcus's flat as headquarters as they conceive a daring 60,000-pound robbery in this killingly funny Ealing Studios classic. Ealing Studios did, of course, all those movies I mentioned, Kind Hearts and Coronets, Lavender Hill Mob, Man in the White Suit, all very funny, all starring Alec Guinness, I believe. Let's see here. Directed by Alexander McKendrick, who also did Sweet Smell of Success, one of the great films of its time. From BAFTA-winning, Oscar-nominated screenplay by William Rose, and co-starring Jack Warner, as I mentioned. Just a really nice new version of this, including a commentary by film historian David Del Valle, and an audio commentary by film historian Philip Kemp, as well as a 166 version of Ladykillers. Otherwise, it's 137 on the 4K. So you have a 166 version as well on the Blu-ray. Forever Ealing documentary, all about Ealing Studios. A very cool thing to have on this. And Cleaning Up the Ladykillers featurette, also on the Blu-ray, as well as interviews with Alan Scott, Ronald Harwood, and Terrence Davies on the Blu-ray. So very cool stuff to get from Kino. I think they've done a few other... I feel like they've done a couple other 4Ks of these Ealings, and there might be some in the works. But this is one of the best ones, and it's a lot of fun. Great cast, very funny. So a lot of great stuff from Kino this month. A lot to recommend and enjoy. And like I said, a few more of these that I still need to check out for myself. But all really enjoyable and some really nice transfers and 4Ks and everything. Kudos to Kino for another nice month of releases. So anyway, thank you so much for listening, and I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.